Understanding why you avoid money decisions won't save you, it just tells you exactly how much longer you can keep paying for delay. If you're new here, this channel is for adults who look stable on the outside, but feel the tension in private, especially when money forces their attention. And if you watched the last 2 videos, you already know the uncomfortable truth: your problem was never discipline. Never intelligence. Never motivation. It was the place inside you where decisions were coming from. You saw why avoidance felt like relief. Why waiting felt responsible. Why playing it safe quietly burned leverage. And that awareness mattered. But here's what almost no one tells you: awareness doesn't move you. It removes your alibi. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So every delayed decision feels heavier. Every "I'll deal with it later" lands louder. Every quiet week feels borrowed, not calm. This is where financially capable adults relapse. Not because they forgot. Because they never built a structure. They got a map, but they still make decisions in the same weather. And when the internal weather is threat, clarity turns into pressure. Today is the final layer of this arc. Not tactics. Not budgets. Not fixing your finances. A framework, simple enough to remember under stress, that shows you where your decisions are actually coming from, and why that's the difference between progress and another cycle of avoidance. Here's the irreversible confrontation you can't dodge anymore: either you keep making money decisions from threat and keep calling it caution, or you learn to decide from margin, and waiting stops being your default. If you've ever understood exactly what's wrong, and still froze when it was time to act, this is for you. Most money decisions don't feel hard because they're complex. They feel hard because they're being made from threat. The threat layer is the internal state where your nervous system believes that one wrong move could cost you safety, dignity, or control. From this layer, money is not information. It's a verdict. A number doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a judgment on whether you're doing life right or wrong. That's why decisions feel heavy before you even think about them. Your body reacts first. Your chest tightens. Your breathing shortens. Only after that does your mind step in to explain what's happening. From the threat layer, your system is not asking, "What's the best option?" It's asking, "How do I not get hurt?" That single question changes everything. Because when the goal is to not get hurt, the safest move is almost always delay. Waiting. Overthinking. Gathering more information. Postponing until things feel clearer. Not because those are intelligent strategies, but because they reduce immediate danger signals. From the threat layer, clarity feels dangerous. Clarity removes ambiguity. It forces commitment. It creates exposure. And exposure is exactly what the threat system is designed to avoid. This is why so many capable adults freeze right after they understand their situation. They didn't fail to learn. They learned while staying inside the same threat environment. So awareness didn't calm them. It increased the pressure. Because now they know something needs to change, but every possible change feels like a risk. From this layer, even good decisions feel unsafe. You can save more and still feel scarcity. You can invest and still feel panic. You can earn more and still feel exposed. Because the decision didn't come from stability. It came from fear wearing logic as camouflage. That's why people say, "I did the right thing, but I still feel anxious." They made a rational move, from an irrational internal state. The threat layer punishes movement. It punishes uncertainty. It punishes commitment. It punishes anything that removes the illusion of control. So it rewards what feels safe in the moment. Waiting. Staying vague. Keeping options open. Doing nothing that could go wrong. That isn't weakness. It's biology. But here's the cost. The threat layer is excellent at preventing short-term pain. And terrible at building long-term leverage. It keeps you alive, but it keeps you small. It narrows your perspective. It collapses your time horizon. It makes every decision feel like it carries your entire future on its back. That's why people in the threat layer feel exhausted before they even act. They're carrying the emotional weight of outcomes they haven't chosen yet. This is also why advice doesn't work here. Advice assumes capacity. Threat consumes it. From this layer, your system doesn't want guidance. It wants relief. And relief comes from avoiding the moment of decision. That's why understanding alone never breaks the cycle. Because as long as decisions come from threat, movement will always feel unsafe, even when staying still is costing you more. This is the first layer. And most people never leave it. Not because they're incapable, but because they don't realize another place to decide from exists. And that realization changes everything. Most people don't live in panic. They live in comfort. Not comfort as pleasure, comfort as emotional insulation. The comfort layer is where avoidance learns to look reasonable. Here, your nervous system isn't screaming. It's negotiating. You're no longer asking, how do I survive? You're asking, how do I stay comfortable a little longer? From this layer, money decisions don't feel dangerous. They feel inconvenient. Heavy. Annoying. Emotionally disruptive. So you don't avoid because you're afraid. You delay because disruption feels unnecessary. From the comfort layer, waiting sounds wise. I don't want to rush. I need more information. I'll deal with this when things settle down. Now isn't the right time. None of that sounds irrational. That's why this layer is so hard to detect. The comfort layer doesn't shout. It whispers. It frames delay as maturity. Inaction as patience. Vagueness as flexibility. And because nothing feels immediately wrong, your body relaxes just enough to stay put. That relief is the trap. Because the comfort layer isn't about safety. It's about preserving the familiar. You're not trying to avoid pain. You're trying to avoid disturbance. The disturbance of choosing. The disturbance of committing. The disturbance of finding out whether your current life actually works. From this layer, you don't freeze. You drift. You stay busy. You stay informed. You stay functional. But you don't move. This is where people tell themselves, I'm being responsible. But responsibility without direction is just maintenance. You maintain your current income. Your current routines. Your current constraints. And maintenance feels good, until it quietly becomes stagnation. The comfort layer keeps options open. But it never lets you use them. Because using an option would require letting go of another one. And letting go feels like loss, even when holding on is costing you more. This is why people in the comfort layer feel calm, and restless at the same time. They're not anxious. They're unsatisfied. They're not overwhelmed. They're undercommitted. Their days feel full, but their trajectory feels flat. From the comfort layer, money decisions don't feel urgent. They feel postponable. And postponement feels harmless, because nothing explodes when you delay. But something is happening. Leverage erodes. Time passes. Energy shifts. Opportunities expire quietly. The comfort layer doesn't take things from you loudly. It lets them slip away gently. That's why this layer is more dangerous than fear. Fear creates friction. Comfort creates inertia. And inertia feels peaceful, right up until movement becomes expensive. This is also why people relapse here after awareness. They escape the threat layer. They feel relief. They land in comfort. And they mistake that relief for progress. But comfort isn't progress. It's stabilization of the familiar. And the familiar is often the very thing that stopped working. The comfort layer doesn't punish you. It rewards you. With relief. With routine. With normalcy. But every reward comes with a condition: you don't challenge the structure. You don't ask hard questions. You don't force decisions that might change your identity. As long as you stay comfortable, nothing asks you to grow. That's the real cost. The comfort layer keeps you safe from discomfort, and trapped inside the same life. Which is why so many capable adults say, "I'm not unhappy, but something's off." They're not in pain. They're not in danger. They're in limbo. And limbo feels calm, until you notice how much time it's already taken. This is the second layer. It's where avoidance stops feeling like fear and starts feeling like patience. And that's exactly why it lasts so long. But there is a third place to decide from. One that doesn't require panic. And doesn't depend on comfort. A place where movement becomes possible again, without forcing yourself, and without waiting for certainty. That's the final layer. Most people think the opposite of fear is confidence. It isn't. The opposite of fear is margin. The margin layer is where decisions stop being about survival and start being about placement. Not because fear disappears, but because fear no longer runs the process. Margin is space. Space between stimulus and response. Space between a number and your nervous system. Space between discomfort and collapse. From this layer, money is no longer a threat. It's information. Not neutral information, but usable information. A number can be uncomfortable without feeling catastrophic. A decision can be uncertain without feeling dangerous. That's the difference. When you decide for margin, your body doesn't ask, "How do I stay safe?" It asks, "What does this create?" That single shift changes the entire experience of decision-making. Because now movement doesn't feel like exposure. It feels like allocation. You're not bracing. You're placing time, energy, attention, money. Not to avoid pain, but to build capacity. This is why margin is not about having enough money. It's about having enough room. Room to absorb a mistake. Room to recover from a hit. Room to adjust without panic. Two people can earn the same income and live in completely different internal states. One feels trapped. The other feels oriented. The difference isn't discipline. It isn't intelligence. It's margin. From the margin layer, waiting loses its emotional reward. Not because waiting becomes wrong, but because it becomes unnecessary. You don't wait to feel safe. You move to create safety. And because movement now builds space instead of threat, your nervous system stops resisting it. This is why people who reach margin say things like, "I'm still uncomfortable, but I can think clearly. I don't love this decision, but I'm not frozen. I don't have certainty, but I have direction." That's not confidence. That's capacity. Margin doesn't eliminate discomfort. It contains it. And contained discomfort feels like effort, not danger. Effort you can sustain. Effort that compounds. Effort that builds leverage instead of eroding it. This is why advice suddenly starts working here. Not because the advice changed, but because you finally have somewhere to apply it from. Threat consumes capacity. Comfort preserves the familiar. Margin creates optionality. And optionality is the real form of safety. Not guarantees. Not predictability. Not control. Options. The ability to choose again. The ability to recover. The ability to move without everything being on the line. This is the layer most adults never reach because no one teaches them that decisions can come from anywhere else. They think the only choices are fear or comfort. Survive or soothe. Margin is the third option. And once you've decided from margin even once, your body remembers the difference. You can feel it. The numbers don't disappear, but they stop feeling like verdicts. The uncertainty doesn't vanish, but it stops feeling like danger. And waiting stops feeling wise. Not because you're rushing, but because you finally have somewhere to stand. This is where avoidance breaks. Not through force. Not through discipline. Not through motivation. Through repositioning. You didn't become braver. You became better resourced. That's the shift. And once decisions consistently come from margin, relapse stops being a constant threat. Because you're no longer choosing between panic and paralysis. You're choosing direction. This is the final layer. And from here, action stops feeling like self-betrayal and starts feeling necessary. Not urgent. Not dramatic. Just honest. That's how the cycle ends.